The waiter sets two glasses on the table. Two close friends are sitting across from each other at dinner. There's music in the background, and the conversation has the loose rhythm of people who know each other well. They talk about the food, the week, and the few small things that happened since they last saw each other. Then one of them shares something good. They have just been accepted into a program they cared for months. It took multiple applications, a waiting period, and a few private doubts they had mostly kept to themselves. Now they finally get to say it out loud. It is not just any information, the person is carrying the news with excitement. Their face changes, their tone lifts a little. They're not just reporting what happened, they are placing something meaningful between them and hoping the other person will meet it. Their friend smiles and says, "Oh, that's nice." Then they look down at the menu again, make a comment about the food, and begin talking about something that happened to them earlier that day. Nothing openly negative has happened. The words are mildly positive. At a glance, the response does the basic social job. It marks the news as good. And still, the person who shared the news feels a small disappointment. The moment starts to feel strange. They may keep smiling, they may follow the next turn in the conversation, they may say something about the food too, but inside another sentence begins to form. They do not really care. Maybe they only care when the conversation is about them. Then the thought hardens. They are selfish. And this is where a small relational moment can become much larger than itself. The issue is not that the feeling is wrong, the disappointment is real. A person can share something important and feel deflated when the response does not stay with it. The shortness of the reply may matter. The quick turn away may matter. It may reveal something about the friendship, about a friend's limits, or about a mismatch in how each person receives good news. But the mind often moves faster than the evidence. Brief response becomes low care. Low care becomes selfishness. Selfishness becomes character, and soon the person is no longer only reacting to what happened at the table, they are reacting to a picture of who the other person is. That movement is easy to miss because the mind often finishes the interpretation before the person notices the steps. By the time it reaches language, it may already sound simple. They are selfish. That sentence may point towards something real, but is not the only possible claim the moment can support. A short reply, a feeling of unimportance, an interpretation of low interest, and a label like selfish may sit close together in experience, but they are not the same claim. Each step moves farther away from the event. The event itself is small and concrete. A friend said, "Oh, that's nice," then moved on. The impact is internal. I felt deflated, unseen, or alone with my excitement. The interpretation adds meaning. Maybe my joy did not matter that much to them. The label turns that meaning into a broader judgment. They are selfish, uninterested, or not really available as a friend. The label may become useful because it gives the feeling a form. It turns a vague change in feeling into something easier to name. Instead of sitting with a messy feeling like I wanted more from that moment and did not receive it, the mind starts suggesting they are selfish. The label reduces uncertainty. It gives the person a position, it makes the discomfort easier to organize. But it also compresses too much. Selfishness is not just a feeling someone has in response to a moment. It is a claim about how another person distributes care, attention, and consideration over time. To call someone selfish is to say something about pattern, priority, and character. It means their own needs tend to stay central, while other people's needs receive less weight. That may be true, but one brief response at dinner does not automatically carry enough evidence for that whole structure. The smaller claim may be more accurate. When I shared something important, I wanted them to stay longer with it. Or their response did not match the size of the moment for me. Or even I felt like my excitement had nowhere to land. Those sentences preserve the experience without forcing it too quickly into character. This matters because relationships can be strained by labels that arrive before their evidence is ready. A blunt sentence, a missed follow up, a slow reply, a confident tone, or a request for space can all become labels before there is enough pattern evidence to support them. Sometimes these labels are eventually earned. People do have patterns. Some friends repeatedly take more space than they give. Some people move past other people's joy because they do not know how to share attention unless they are the center of the conversation. Some people give care in a surface form while redirecting the room back towards themselves. The question is not whether labels are always wrong. The question is what kind of evidence they require. One moment can show impact, it can show a mismatch, it can show a possible pattern. But character claims usually need more than impact. They need repetition, context, repair, and responsiveness. Whether the person notices the impact, changes when it is named, shows care elsewhere, or repeats the same structure again and again. The difference matters because an isolated moment and a pattern are not the same kind of evidence. One short response at dinner is data point. It can show impact, it can reveal a mismatch, it can raise a question, but by itself it does not yet show the whole structure of the friendship. A pattern is different. A pattern appears when similar moments repeat under similar conditions. Each time one person shares something meaningful, the other gives a quick sentence, shifts the conversation back to themselves, and shows little interest when the impact is named. Now, the issue is no longer one short response. The issue is how attention tends to move inside the relationship. That is why repair matters. Imagine the same dinner, but later the person says, I realized I moved on too quickly when you told me the news. I was distracted, but I actually am really happy for you. Tell me more about it. That changes the meaning of the first moment. The short response still happened. The disappointment still made sense. But the broader label weakens because the person showed repair. Now, imagine the opposite. Every time one friend shares something meaningful, the other gives a quick sentence, turns the conversation back towards themselves, and shows little interest when the impact is named. Over time, the label might become more supported. There is no longer one short response. The issue is a pattern in how attention moves. This is why the level of the claim matters. A moment level claim stays close to the event. The response felt too small. A pattern level claim adds repetition. This keeps happening when something important is shared. A character level claim moves into the person. This person is selfish. A relationship level claim widens the frame again. This friendship may not have enough room for this kind of attention. Those claims are connected, but they are not interchangeable. Much of ordinary conflict comes from speaking one level while feeling another. You are selfish may be the language used when the first accurate sentence is, I felt alone in that moment. You do not care may mean I expected more response than you gave. You always make it about yourself may be stronger than the available evidence if the clearest observable claim is only that the conversation moved away quicker that night. Precision does not remove the disappointment, It makes the disappointment easier to work with. If the claim is precise, the other person has something to respond to. They can say, I did move on too quickly, or I did not realize that these news mattered to you that much, or I hear that you wanted more from me there. The conversation can stay near the event long enough to test what happened. If the claim becomes character too quickly, the other person now has to defend their whole self. The conversation shifts from a moment at dinner into a judgment about what kind of person they are. The original cue disappears under the weight of the label. This is part of why labels feel useful and risky at the same time. They help us orient quickly. They tell us where to place hurt, who to trust, what to expect, and when to protect ourselves. Without labels, every situation would remain too open. People need words like selfish, disrespectful, generous, and reliable. They help people notice patterns that matter. But a label is only as good as the pathway that led to it. If the pathway is clear, the label can name reality. If the pathway is rushed, the label can replace reality. A good label gathers evidence. A bad label hides the jump. The dinner scene shows the problem because the behavior is small enough to stay ambiguous. A friend responds positively, but too briefly. The person sharing the news feels unseen. That feeling deserves attention. It may reveal a real need in the friendship. It may reveal an old sensitivity around being celebrated, a pattern where one person takes more conversational space than the other. It may also reveal a simple mismatch in expressive style. The task is not to keep every possibility open forever. The task is to let the claim match the evidence. If the evidence is one short response, the cleanest sentence may be that felt smaller than I hoped. If the evidence is repeated conversational redirection, the sentence may become I notice that when I share something important, the conversation often comes back to you. If the person dismisses that concern, then the structure changes again. Now, the issue includes not only the original response, but the person's ability to care about impact. That is where the issue begins to move from a moment into a pattern. If the pattern repeats long enough, a stronger claim may become warranted. But even then, the label still has to be chosen carefully. The danger is skipping the middle. We tend to skip the middle because emotion looks for a stable object. Disappointment looks for a reason. Shame can look for a culprit. Hurt often looks for a story that explains why it happened. A label gives all that quickly. But relationships often change inside the middle space between what happened and what we call it. That space is where the event can still be seen. The words were short, the timing was quick, the impact was real. The meaning is still being tested. Maybe the friend was distracted. Maybe they care but lack the habit of staying with someone else's excitement. Maybe the pattern is more self focused. Maybe the friendship has care but not the kind of attention that the person needs. Those possibilities do not all lead to the same response. Some call for clarification, some call for adjustment, some call for lower expectations, and some may even call for distance. The label chosen too early makes those differences harder to see. So, the useful question after a painful moment is not only what does this say about them? It may be what level of claim has this moment actually earned? A short reply can be disappointing without proving selfishness. A harsh tone can matter without proving disrespect as character. A missed question can hurt without proving indifference. And a repeated pattern can eventually deserve a stronger name. The difficulty is learning to keep the level separate long enough for reality to show its shape. Because one moment may reveal something, it just may not reveal as much as the label says.